Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on my channel. Again, a short one for you all today, just to look at my current Game Week 1 team, which is feeling pretty set, ready for the weekend, which is a nice feeling to have it ready for the weekend. The deadline is fast approaching, so any questions, do let me know, drop them in the comments, or let me know on Twitter. Just before we get into it, if you guys don't already follow me over on Twitter, my link is up on the page already, so if you could go and do that, as well as dropping a like and a subscribe on this video, it would be much appreciated. Thanks guys. So we will get into it now, and the team you can see up on here screen now is my current draft of my Game Week 1 team, and we'll get straight into it discussing the players that I've got. So the first option that we've got in here is Sam Johnson of West Brom in goal. Not a pick that we've seen quite a lot going around at the moment, but he's one that I really like. Part of the reason I really like him is his strong opening fixtures. He only faces two of the top sort of 7 teams, 3 of the top 7 teams in his opening 12 game week, something that I really like from him, as well as him being a well-known sort of penalty saving goalkeeper. Now, the reason I like a penalty saving goalkeeper is that sort of accounts for 2 clean sheets. So if West Brom aren't keeping clean sheets, but he can save a penalty, that sort of amounts for 2 clean sheets that he could get from him. And I really like the opening fixtures that he's got, sort of medium to long term. So I really like Johnson as sort of a bit of a differential pick. With just 0.9% ownership, but I think he could be really good. As my backup goalkeeper, I've got the West Brom backup goalkeeper in goal. David Button in there, should be the number 2 for West Brom. And the reason I brought him in is just so I know that if Johnson doesn't play, then I should have the West Brom goalkeeper as my backup, even if Johnson doesn't start and he gets in. So if we move on to the defence now, the first one that I've got, we start here, is Kyle Walker-Peters. So Southampton did look better defensively last season, especially with McCarthy and bringing in Kyle Walker-Peters for the second half of the season on loan. They looked much stronger defensively, so I like that. They have really strong opening fixtures with Palace, Burnley and West Brom in their first 4. So someone I can sort of play every week to start the season. I don't need to worry about him, as well as he can be quite creative. So that ranking in creativity amongst defenders, 61, thinking of all the defenders who are more expensive than him, at his price, he offers like a good creative attacking fullback that we can have in with some good opening fixtures. So I really like Kyle Walker-Peters. The second defender that I've got in, Trent Alexander-Arnold, so coming in at 7.5 million, the most expensive defender on the game, but I definitely think he's worth spending the money on to get him into your teams. We've seen from quotes today that he's ready for Game Week 1. He had a slight injury, but he is ready to play this weekend. We know what he can do attacking potential-wise. He scored 210 points last season. So that's very good from him, as well as some decent enough opening fixtures. But as we know, Liverpool and Trent are very fixture proof. They can score points against anyone, both with clean sheets and both the attacking potential, both in goals and assists that Trent provides. So definitely an essential pick in my team, and is not someone that I plan on transferring out anytime soon. The next defender pick that I've got is Kieran Tierney. Now, he sort of made his way in slightly to the Arsenal team last season, but wasn't very effective for a lot of us in our teams. However, I'm hoping that he can nail down that sort of left wing back or that left centre back role, depending on where he's going to play. Either of which means he can get a lot forward up the pitch. So definitely a pick that I like in terms of his attacking potential, as well as Arsenal have looked better defensively at the end of last season. And 3 of their opening 4 are very favourable in terms of defensive output. So Fulham away, West Ham at home and Sheffield United at home. It's definitely sort of 3 fixtures that I really like for him. A bit of a differential, and not someone I'll keep long term, but someone I like for those sort of opening fixtures of the season. So the next starting defender that I've got for Game Week 1, and my last defender who's starting, is James Justin of Leicester. Now, if they're lining up with a 3 at the back or a 5 at the back, with Pereira being out injured still until roughly about Game Week 7, he should be playing that right wing back role for Leicester for the sort of opening 6 or so fixtures, in which they've got West Brom away, Burnley at home, West Ham at home and Aston Villa at home. So you just need to find a way to bench him in Game Week 3, where they have Man City and they have 4 really good opening fixtures in their first 5. As well as this, when Pereira does come back from injury, there is quite a large possibility that if they are playing three at the back, that James Justin could fill in that centre-back role, the right side of the centre-back, in a sort of Azpilicueta at Chelsea, what he did in that three at the back. So I like him at a cheap price. He's very creative, again, in that creativity ranks 39th, so we know what he can do going forward when he does get the chance to play. So another nice pick at 9.6% owned at 4.5 million. The next and final defender that I have in my lineup at the moment is Charlie Taylor. He's currently sat on my bench because Burnley do not have a fixture game week 1. However, their fixtures sort of going forward are very good after game week 1 and the game week 2 game against Leicester, with Southampton, Newcastle, West Brom in their next 3. And we know Burnley kept 15 clean sheets last season with Nick Pope in goal. It looks like to be the same defence next season as it is this season. They should be able to reproduce something close to the numbers that they were doing last season. 4.5 million for a Burnley defender is something that I really like the look of. And yes, they do blank in game week 1, but if you can have him on your bench ready to go to the game week 3 when their fixtures turn, then it's really worth having him in there rather than having to waste a transfer to get him in for those fixtures. So I definitely recommend trying to get a Burnley defender on your bench to start the season. Now, my first of my midfield line, so we'll move on to the midfielders now, is Alan St-Maximin. Now, he had some mixed seasons with sort of 3 goals and 5 assists last season in 92 points and 1,886 minutes played. But with their signings of Fraser and Wilson, they look a really good sort of creative attacking force this season. And St-Maximin is someone who's taken time to adjust to the league, but we know what he can do on his day, and we know how creative and sort of how much of a flair he can be on the pitch. So I really like what he can offer. If we look at the fixtures, they're good, especially for the first 2 with West Brom and Brighton in the first 2. Mixed, but Spurs, Burnley at home, Man U at home. They're not amazing, but with a 5.5 midfielder, you can't expect him to be going every week, and he is someone that I can rotate with some of those players on my bench that we will get to. But I definitely think that at 5.5 million, he's the best option at that price, especially with us hearing that today that Stuart Armstrong of Southampton is currently out injured. So probably the best option at that price, and someone that can create against any teams because of how much flair he has. Now, onto one of 2 big hitters within my Game Week 1 team. We start off with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who will be my vice-captain for Game Week 1. A lot of info on my Twitter page on why I've gone with him as my vice-captain and who I've gone with my captain. In due course, we will see. Now, we know what Aubameyang can do. He's a talisman for Arsenal. He's involved in over 50% of goals when he's on the pitch for them. We know how creative, we know how many chances he can get and how clinical he can be when he gets them. So if we look at their opening fixtures, again, Fulham and West Ham in their first 2, really great fixtures. I expect a lot from Aubameyang in those opening fixtures, especially after his goal in the Community Shield. Someone that I will look to sell sort of Game Week 3 for my Man City assets, who I don't have in my Game Week 1 team currently. So Aubameyang is in there for the opening 2, will likely be my captain Game Week 2, but not my captain Game Week 1. But I really like what he can offer in the opening game week. My final starting midfielder for Game Week 1 and my captain for Game Week 1 is Mohamed Salah. What more needs to be said about this man? 19 goals last season, 22 goals the season before, 32 goals the season before that, as well as double-digit assists in every one of those seasons. He starts off the season with a sort of mixed run with Leeds up first, which is really great, followed by Chelsea, Arsenal, but then it's this run of Aston Villa, Everton, Sheffield United and West Ham up until Game Week 7 that I'm really excited to own him for. I also want him in my Game Week 1 team because he's going to be my captain. I just not sure on Aubameyang away from home, and I like the sort of longevity of Salah, so I like to have him as my Game Week 1 captain. Looking at the sort of odds that we get from the betting sites and things like that, he has the highest percentage chance of getting an attacking return, whether that's a goal or an assist in Game Week 1. So he will be my Game Week 1 captain, and I'm really excited to have him in my team. Now on to the next midfielder within my lineup, and this is Thomas Souček. So he comes in at just 5 million. So it's a very cheap player to have, and people are very concerned about the opening fixtures for West Ham, which aren't great. However, if you actually look at them and look at them one by one, it's only Game Week 6 and Game Week 7, the Man City and Liverpool games, where I'd expect West Ham not to score, seeing how good they were at the end of last season. At the end of last season, He scored 3 goals in just sort of 1,000 minutes from when he sort of got into the team. He looks to be getting much further forward up the pitch, not just playing the CDM role that he seems to be priced at 5 million as. He does join the attack. He does link up with Antonio and Haller. So at 5 million, you can't really go wrong. You can't play him at every game week looking at the fixtures and on what he can offer, but he's definitely a good person to have in the squad, and I'm excited to bring him in to play game week 1 to cover those players that I have blanking in that fixture against Newcastle. So not one who's necessarily going to set everything alight, but a nice player to have in your squad, and I definitely can see that. The final player in my Game Week 1 squad currently is Anguissa of Fulham. Now, this is subject to change. It will be a 4.5 midfield, and whoever out of the 4.5s, potentially Basuma of Brighton or Romeu of Southampton, or we could have Reed at Fulham. It's going to be one of these players who's likely to play every week and just return 2 points. They can sit last on my bench, but I know that if I need a 2-point player, then I'm going to have someone starting. I may as well pick one who's going to start over one who's not, so that will be who decides it. Currently it's Anguissa, but that is subject to change. Now, onto the final front three, my forward line. So we start with Dominic Calvert-Lewin, someone who was sort of mixed form last year, had some really good spells and some poor spells. He starts off with some really nice fixtures, which is why I've currently gone with him. Tottenham away, game week 1. They didn't keep that many clean sheets last year season, Tottenham, and with the new signings for Everton with James Rodriguez, Allen and amongst others, they will really be looking to start the season strong. So I do expect them to score in this game. But after that, they do have West Brom, Crystal Palace away and Brighton at home in their next 3 after that. We know what he can offer. I think it's worth finding the money for Dominic Calvert-Lewin over the 6.5 and the 6.0 Mitrovic and Che Adams options that people are going for. I definitely think that he is worth the £1 million over that, which is why I've got him in terms of my short term. So in terms of my sort of next forward, Timo Werner, one of the most highly owned players in the game, 48% selected by at the moment. Some great fixtures to open up with Brighton away, West Brom and Crystal Palace, Southampton in their first 5. And actually Liverpool at home, especially the match being at home for Werner, he likes to get in behind while those Liverpool fullbacks and defence will push up to form quite a high line. It will allow Werner to have that space in behind that we know he can exploit, and he's done it in the Bundesliga before. So I like his fixtures. He's scored in his sort of opening game in pre-season. He's a great striker and can be very clinical and exactly what Chelsea need up front. So I'm definitely having Werner in my team for quite a long time is how long I predict to have him in my team. So I really like him. The final option within my forward line is Anthony Martial. Now, no game week 1 fixture for Man U, but with the players that I've got on my bench with Souček and the likes of the 4.5 defenders who do have good fixtures game week 1, which is part of the reason I've chosen them, I can have Anthony Martial on my bench game week 1. We really know what he can offer. He scored 17 goals and 9 assists in just 2,500 minutes. He missed large portions of the season through injury. So if he's fully fit for the full season, we know he could be really, really creative. He ranks 4th in influence among forwards, 7th for creativity, 8th for threat, and 6th on the overall ICT index. And that puts him 16th in the whole game. We know what he can offer. Going forward, we've seen it before from him. And looking at the fixtures after that game week 1 blank, it's a sea of greens. It's a sea of those sort of grey 3 fixtures. Crystal Palace and Brighton straight up, as well as Tottenham at home, Chelsea at home. Teams that may look like a sort of slightly more difficult fixture, but they can't inherently be strong defensively. So he is in my team going forward. Will be benched game week 1, but I definitely want Martial as my Man U asset going. So this is my team for game week 1 and my squad there. Now, if we just have a look at sort of some potential transfers that I'm looking between game week 1 and sort of game week 5, we'll have a look at those. But this is it, and I currently have 0. So this is how I plan to have my team in the lead up to game week 4. So after 3 weeks and after I've had 3 free transfers. The changes I've made will be Tierney out to bring in Robertson. The way I'll free up money to do that is to downgrade Aubameyang to Kevin De Bruyne once Man City's fixtures turn after the Wolves game in game weeks 2, and moving Dominic Calvert-Lewin down to the likes of Che Adams or another 6.0 option. We know there will be a 6.0 or 6.5 who hits the ground running and will be a good asset for us. We just don't know who it is yet. That's why I'm starting with Calvert-Lewin, because I don't want to take the risk on a guessing game of who it is, but I really think there will be one, and I'll use this opportunity to jump on them early. I like Robertson's fixtures. After that game week 4, they have really strong fixtures. So definitely someone that I will look to have going forward. So if we just have a look at the fixtures for Liverpool after that game week 4, Aston Villa, Everton, Sheffield United, West Ham, and those sea of greens and greys going forward. So definitely someone that I will look for. And the final player on the team sheet was Kevin De Bruyne. Not more needs to be said about him. Great, decent enough fixtures for him, but he's fixture proof and he can perform in any. So on screen here is how I plan on lining up for game week 1. It's a 4-4-2 formation with some strong players on the bench to come in once the blank fixtures have turned around. I hope this has been useful. If you guys could like the video, let me know in the comments any changes you'd make or any questions you've got ahead of the game week 1 deadline. Make sure to subscribe. Road to 700 subscribers, and follow me on Twitter. That would be really appreciated. But thanks guys.